So I have a few questions on mine,
A
but I'll
few?
start with one. No, I'm not gonna throw them all at you.
Okay, go ahead.
And yeah, I might just ask some of them later. But one is just wondering about wondering specifically. So I've had women come to me, been in situations that you're talking about. And exactly the mentality that you talk about, I get from them in terms of like, I'm in need, I deserve zakat. Why isn't the Muslim community giving me zakat? I go to but even not just that. I've heard this from multiple people. I go to the Christians and they don't ask any questions. They give me everything. They've given me so much help. Muslims have given me no help. And the perspective that I hear from often from the leadership in our community, understanding that ultimately this is just a few individuals.
Right,
it is
right.
there's something systemic going on, but at the end of the day, it's just a few individuals, and we keep our ultimate good opinion of the whole community.
Yes.
But still, something that just a common trope that I hear is just having so many requirements to help someone. Like one place, this sister was telling me about. She asked for zakat, and they said, okay, like we'd like your driver's license and this info about you and that kind of thing. And I guess I can. And so for that sister, she said I could have maybe gotten some zakat from them, but I wasn't going to humiliate myself like that. Give all this information like I have to provide like lack of a criminal record and that kind of thing. Can't you just see I'm in need? You see my son. Why can't you just give me money? And so I was wondering your thoughts on kind of that debate. That it just seems that it's hard to push through that logic of people who have the money and saying, look, anyone can come to us with money, so we need to vet them and make sure they're not just taking advantage of us. And yet the person who is, like, if they were actually in that position, it is a humiliating experience to have to prove your need and that kind of thing. So if you could just shed some light on how to navigate.
Now you're going to have me, add some things in that I didn't say before, which was, and that's good. One of the reasons, again, going back to in dealing with the shelter, is that the Muslim women, just like you said, they would call me and they would say they were in need. The main reason why individuals would call me is because I answer the phone. The same phone that they call me on is the same. It's right here in my purse that, who calling. I answer it all the time, anytime, day or night. That's why. And they say when they call them the masjid, and this was the scenario that, remember, again, I learned from the women. They would say, she would say, I'm calling, I'm a victim of domestic violence, so I'm homeless. And this is their response. They said, okay, remember, you're a homeless person, calling maybe with your last, it's not a dime anymore, a quarter or whatever. They will say, go to our website, click on the zakat application, download the application, print it out, fill it out, fax it back to us, and the next time the board meets, we will make a decision on your case. You're talking to a person, just like you said, that's totally stressed out, right? And not to even mention the fact that, all of the things that they said required you to actually have a place to, you see, it was illogical. That's the first, mistake. The other thing is relative to, let me look at a lesson that I learned. We have, as a community, we seem to be concerned about what people are going to do with the money. That's what our problem is. We're concerned about what people are going to do with the money. And it's the exact same reason why they don't want to, donate to Muslim men on Nisa. It's just that we're a bigger thing. Because what I actually proposed as a solution was that if all of the messages, especially the ones in the organizations that send people, I says, why don't you give 1% of the amount of zakat that you give it to Muslim men on Nisa. When someone comes and they're in need, then you pay, whether you pay for a trip for them to come, right? And then you're giving that zakat to be able to keep it sustainable, then I could be that solution. I said, because it isn't possible for the masjids to be able to handle, like the people who may come. And so what they do, even if they give them money, they may give them money for, maybe a week or a month to put them in a hotel. So, but it's not something that's sustainable. So it's like they say, throwing good money after bad. So you're giving them money, like this one time. But if you have not done enough to change their condition, then they're just going to keep coming back until the money runs out. They said, okay, you know what? You max out how much money you can get. This is for those who actually get it. You max out how much money you get, and then now they call me. I said, okay, so you're sending this sister. I said, but you didn't send her with a check. I'm like, what do you think was going to happen with her case? If they don't want to trust the woman, then trust this organization to be able to provide for them. And that's what I do actually, recommend. But they don't do that. They're concerned about what happens to, what's going to happen to the money. And I used to have an attitude with the community because they took me through the exact same changes, right? And I said, but a couple of scholars, when I asked them about it, they said, that you shouldn't follow your sadaqah. That was what I was told. You should not follow your sadaqah because you're getting the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regardless. As well as we send money out the country, you have no idea what is happening with that money, and it does not necessarily make a difference in the lives of people. However, I also realize that we may, as individuals, do it, we may not even know. Because when you would ride along and you see somebody and they're on the corner and they're saying, with a little sign, say homeless, give me $1. I used to do the same thing. I was like, I'm not giving you $1. I don't know what you're going to do with that money. But then I had to be able to, accept the same advice that the scholars gave me. So now, what happens is that if I see someone, I have this thing that I started, I call it my homeless dollar. So I keep them in the car. And so when I go and I said, I'm not going to pass them an opportunity to get some blessings, so I just go ahead and give it to them. Because it doesn't matter what they do with it. I got my reward. Doesn't matter what they do with it.
I highly recommend that, by the way.
See, there you go. And I call it my homeless dollar.
You don't have to think twice.
You see, and that's what it is. I keep them, in the car, in the car, and I come to this Muslim sister who brought it to my attention. I said, you know what? For every dollar that that I give, then she'll get a portion of the reward, because she was the one who said, well, Asma, think about what you're saying. She was one of the, and that's the reason why I don't think about it anymore. I actually need some water. Thank you. No, okay, wait. No, you sit down. She's there.
No, you have some water.
Oh, never mind. I have water. Yay!
I was trying to help.
Yes. Wait, 1 second. So the thing about it is that it's almost as if the people with money are so concerned. And I'm like, but you're going to get the blessing. And they said that you shouldn't follow your son. And in fact, there even was one Muslim brother who says even they're asking for a tax receipt. All right, he says it's like, what do you want? The reward from the government or the reward from Allah? You got people who say these types of things to me. So I think it has to do with, again, I won't say the lack of trust or the issues with Muslim women issues, because I sat in a fundraiser just to show you, again, why these are things that are systemic. I sat in a fundraiser, and it's like, anytime they got some crises overseas, people can put together a fundraiser in 3 days and they can raise, millions of dollars. And someone gave me a ticket to one, I'll say a free meal, whatever, and they said it was totally sold out. And I went, and when I got inside the room though, the room was like only maybe 30% full, which meant that people gave the money, bought the tickets even though they weren't there. So then I also thought about, because it was in a hotel, all of the food that was going to be wasted, because that's what they paid for. That I could have fed, I'm like, if y'all had it like this, then I could have, brought, my shelters, some shelters from over here. We could have came in at least eating the food. And as I sat there, And the people had, you know, a noted scholar that was speaking, you know, a fundraiser, a big PowerPoint, you know, video and all this other kind of stuff. And then they would talk about what the money would be used for and all of this and all of that. And then the person who was speaking, now remember they spent 45 minutes with this whole presentation. And in the last part of it, they said, and this was for Libya. And in fact, some of the interviews that was in there, they were from Libya who were coming there to support, you know, help going to Libya. And in the last, you know, like maybe minute, they says, okay, these are all the things that we do with the money, and as soon as Gaddafi lets us, you know, cross the borders, we can come in and do that. I'm like, what Gaddafi y'all know? Gaddafi is not letting y'all. You know, I'm saying to myself, you know, Gaddafi, and he never did. But nobody asked what happened to the $500,000 that you all raised to be able to go to Libya. You see, so you're worried about what the couple of $100 he might give a Muslim sister, but you know, you got all of this money, and it was a fact. We all know that he never let them in. You know, it was, but we also know that, you know, that was the case. So we waste money on the things that people's hearts will be touched. So we have a tendency to, we will give money for our out of the country, you know, causes, while Muslim women are in this country being humiliated and taken through changes for some little bit of, you know, little pennies of things. And even with the amount of money, and then people say, well, how much money does it take, just as an example, to run the shelter? I said, well, just to make it not even better than, but minimally at par with other shelters, let's say it would take $20,000 a month based on the number of people that I can take into the shelter, right? Okay, you know, we don't get that. So then I said, okay, but then if I downsize, then maybe we got to do 15,000. I don't get that. So I said, well, then maybe, you know, I said, well, at 10,000, we can at least have the bare necessities, right? The bare necessities. And with 10,000, and usually it's usually 5 to 7, right? Not 10. That every one of us in the house are living below the poverty level. And when I share this, you know, because people say, well, how much is the rent on the shelter? I say, well, the rent is, you know, it's $2,500. It's a multifamily dwelling, which is 3 houses in one, right? They said, $2,500, that's a lot of money. I said, well, how much is your mortgage? Their mortgage is like $3,000. And y'all just a single family, and you're only taking care of maybe, you know, like the 5 people in your family. So you don't have a problem with spending that on yourself, but you would have a problem paying, you know, for, you know, the $2,500 for a multifamily dwelling to be able to care for homeless Muslim children. So it's our priorities. That's what the problem is. We're untrusting of, you know, of giving money to things that maybe we feel like we don't control, as well as I don't know, being covetous with the wealth that, and that was something else. And Imam Zayd actually said that. He said that wealth doesn't belong to you. He says Allah loaned it to you for you to do something with it that was, you know, and he did. He says it does not belong to you. You got to give it up. You know, you're just an executor of it or something, but it doesn't belong to you. But if you say that, if I say that to people, then it's like with myself. Even when people give there was an organization that said that they would give Muslim and Anisa $20,000. They said, we're going to give you $20,000 to be able to, you know, to be able to function. I was like, hey, okay, I can use $20,000. We don't use $20,000. And then they said, and here's the reporting sheet for you. See, we talk about that. Here's the reporting sheet. It's like this thick. So, that meant they wanted to know where every penny went. So I looked at this sheet and I said, okay, man, you need an accountant to be able to keep track of the $20,000. The accountant's fee was $30,000 to do that for a year. I never got the $20,000. I couldn't afford to take $20,000 because of the stipulations that they put on it, and that's what they do. They put and so, you know, they want me to be able to provide paperwork and documents and all this other kind of stuff. And I said, then they said, well, Asma, you need to be able to, you need to have transparency. I said, what is this word transparency? You know, they make that word up now. I know, it's supposed to show this and show that and show this. I says, oh. And that's what I'm talking about, you know, just going into what you said. I says, oh, so you want me to look good on paper. What about looking good before my Lord? I'm trying to stand before Allah. You want me to say, okay, I look really good on paper because I got all these other things, you know, but what is that doing for my soul? And that's my problem. I'm not a business. I can't run it like a business. I don't know how. I'm not a business person. It's compassion, it's the love, and the things that Allah, His messages said that we're supposed to do. So I'm fighting, you know, it's like, you know, we're talking apples and oranges. So what you're talking about is the same type of thing. If a person is coming from the perspective of, you know, being Muslim and using Quran and Sunnah as how they're, you know, they're tackling a problem, or, you know, respect, you know, their expectations, it's not going to have that effect. The Muslim Al-Nisa stays afloat, and I always say that as long as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased, that we keep the doors open. And it's individuals, regular individuals who will say, okay, well, they will help. Not no large donors who come in with, you know, with mega bucks. You know, it's individuals, you know, that's just like yourselves, people whose hearts are caring, who, you know, they're not into all of, you know, and that make a difference. And those sisters are going to always have to go through. Now, I tried this years when I first started, and I sent an email and a packet of information to all of the masjids that was in the area. And I said, I have a lot of Muslim sisters that are needing help. I said, so what I need for you to do, I said, if you could either, you know, give 1% of your zakat to Muslim Al-Nisad so that I can then, you know, provide for the help, since I'm realizing the masjid can't do it. I says, or, you know what, identify for me who in your, you know, in the masjid or in your organization that I can direct the sisters to when they contact me for needing help. They said that I talked bad about them. I insulted them and said that they weren't helping the sisters. Like, I didn't say that. But it's, you know, they want to take on this thing that you're attacking them if you say that they're not doing something. But you're not doing it. You're turning the sisters away. And they say that these women are an embarrassment. They're an embarrassment when they come, you know, homeless or in the masjid or whatever. You know, and it's not a whole lot of positive things I can say about the Muslim organizations who are supposed to be helping, because I know that they don't help the regular, everyday individuals. The ones who get all of the money, they spend 70% of it in salaries, media, these types of things. And there's only a small portion goes to be able to those in need. But we don't think about that because they look good on paper. They look good on paper. I don't. I don't look good on paper. I don't have anybody that can sit there and, you know, and take the time to write up all of this and write up all of that. I'm like, okay, spent money on this and spent money on that. I says, what, you know, why do you think that I would jeopardize trying to go to paradise? You don't have that much money. You know, so you're telling me that I'm willing to sacrifice paradise for this money that you're saying that you're going to give. It's not that much money in the world. It's not. But they don't take it from the perspective of you being a Muslim, and that's what they're not doing for the sisters. And sadly, also is that I can't take care of the sisters. That's their complaint. I can't afford to give them the things that the other people can give. And see, the Christian organizations, and just so you'll know, I also did a study. This is all a part at Harvard Education, Harvard Seminary. I did another study on I evaluated the social service, you know, the social services needs, you know, of the different faiths. And just so you know, the best faith, you know, community that provides for social services needs of the, you know, is the Jewish community. It's the best. They were the first ones to have their own social services system. Now, mind you, we got zakat, okay? We supposed to have ours, but they actually implement it. So it's just like, you got what somebody in their community comes, you just, it's good. They had the first shelter. In fact, I patterned Muslim and Al-Nisa after a shelter that they established, which was the first faith-based shelter. So the Jewish community, and they were the first community to come up, right? Far, outweighs. So they were the first. The second is the Christians. But they only get to be two, though, by default, because this is a Christian country. So money that comes to them, all right, because it's a Christian country, and they have the systems here, with the government or whatever, but that's Christian money. So they actually only get it by default. The reason why Muslims are third is because we're actually minus. We don't have a system that we utilize. We don't have a system that we utilize because the women who come to the shelter, they can go down to the Department of Social Services, and all they have to say is that they're in a shelter, and they will automatically get, if I write something that says yes, they're in a shelter, they'll give them food stamps, they'll give them health care, they'll give them, these things. They will even give them a little stipend, even if it's just for 3 months, right? Just say they're in the shelter, and just so you'll know, the organization that actually gave us $20,000 wasn't a Muslim organization, and this was 4 years ago, so it's gone by now. But anyway, they gave it was Mary Kay Foundation. With a makeup lady, because she believed in it as a cause. And like I said, I speak the truth about what it is that's happening. All I had to do was to be a shelter that provided shelter for victims of domestic violence. That's all I had to do. I didn't have to tell them, nothing else. And they say, and in fact, they sent me an email because they give it to so many, a year. They sent me an email saying, we just want to inform you, said this is to inform you that you have been, selected, to get $20,000 for, your shelter, And I was like, this is spam. Ain't nobody send me no email, because you get no emails all the time that say you got some money, right? I said, this is spam. Ain't nobody sent. I was like, man, I did not believe it. I was like, this is way this is way too, no one's, falls for that. But I did it. It came in an email. And I told my son that I was pouring into my children, and we were cracking up. I said, they want me to believe that they're going to give me $20,000. 2 weeks later, the check came. I was like, oh my goodness, it was real. It was real, and I didn't have to do nothing but the work that I say that I would do. And that's all that I would expect from the Muslim community. I said, even if I don't have stuff on paperwork, even if I don't do this and that, I said, but I do what I say that I want to do. And I said, so what do you think? What do you think I'm doing with the money? I said, I live in a shelter. I said, I don't have a vehicle. I said, I couldn't even go visit my mother when she was ill. I said, don't you think that if I had money, I would have, paid someone to be here and go and be at her bedside? I would have paid for her funeral. I would have did all of these things. I said, I don't even have the lifestyle. I don't even know how to have an account out of the country or whatever. I said, I don't even have a lifestyle of a person that's living wealthy like that. I said, but if nothing else, I do what I say. That's what my life is. I don't understand this lack of trust of certain individuals. There's another masjid that actually built, was collecting several millions of dollars to be able to build a community, and they didn't, and something happened that it fell through. Nobody talks about that community and what happened to that money that people were donating for a year, and they had several $1 million. Nobody talks about that. But if I didn't fill out my taxes because I didn't have an accountant, I'm a scoundrel. So see, there's something wrong with what we do. We're not. Was it inequality, inequitable, whatever those words are? Yes, we do that. And the first thing that Muslims will put money into is a masjid. The next thing they will put it into would be a school. And maybe they might possibly, do something, but Muslim women are way down to this. And most messages don't have a social services, And it's still up to, like you said, there's so much paperwork. There's so much paperwork that when I, you need some water? So the thing is that they, I don't know where that came in, and that was on my other paper that I wrote. It actually started with, Paul and Corinthians. See, that's back there. Okay, and it has continued. So it's not something that just came out of the Muslims. The mindset of the menfolk, it came as a result that's what they attributed to. You know, that
the mindset of
the men, that where women are devalued. All right, but they attribute it to Islam, but it started way before that, and that's why, unfortunately, we have to fight for a position that our beloved Prophet spoke of in his last sermon. You know, I don't know who wasn't listening, or why they're neglectful of it, but I don't really like having these types of talks, only because it sounds so depressing. It sounds like like as if, well, I'm maybe complaining or sour grapes or whatever. I was like, no, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care. It's in his hands. And so when something doesn't happen, I may be sad, my feelings may be hurt, but I also know that everything is by Allah's leave. And when I was struggling 6 months ago because of some major things that was happening, and I was needing help, and people weren't helping, and I realized, what does it say, that I wasn't angry with the people. I just turned to my Lord. I said, Ya Allah, I need this. We need this. Please bring some help. Please bring some help. Because the place that we were in was being condemned because the owner, well, not being condemned, but it was in bad shape because the owner wouldn't fix it up. And so I didn't want, and the women were complaining because they were living in, conditions that, so, we ended up, we were going to be evicted because of the fact that it was, it really didn't need to be. And I didn't know what was I going to do with the women. And nobody would help. Nobody would help. So I said, okay, you know what? I just make dua and I'm praying. And I think about, all the people that I went to asking for money. I remember what it says that, if the whole world is against you, and if it's meant for you, that whole Lord of the world said, I love that. Lord of the world. That it'll be okay, but if they try to give it to you, and you said no, it's not meant, then you're not going to get it. Well, what Allah, He said, we found a property that we had that we had never been able to fix up. He said a team of people to come and fix that property up. So it wasn't any money, but that's the house that we're in now. We can't ever be put out. And the brother basically, and this goes to show you the difference. The brother who headed it up never asked for a tax receipt, never asked for anything. He said, so this is your house. And I said, yes, this is our house, but it was in bad shape, right? He said, well, Sister Asma, he says, okay, I'll make a deal with you. He says, I don't want you to tell anybody that I'm doing this. I love that kind of talk. He says, I don't want you to tell anybody I'm doing this. He says, I only ask, he said, two things of you. He says, you take care of the sisters, he says, and I'll take care of you, meaning the house. Okay? So if the house needs something, he would come in. And he's not a wealthy man, but he had some people who could come and do some work. And then and the second thing he said, and just make dua for myself and my family. So I make dua for him every salah, every day, because, that's what he asked of me. That's, and so Allah sent that person when it's like you're thinking all hope is, is lost, that, what am I going to do? I have no money. People want to ask me for all of these details and all this other kind of stuff. So Allah, it happens. But like I said, the human side, my feelings get hurt. And why I cry so much, because I think of that, come on, y'all, we have the perfect way of life, perfect religion, and we're squandering a lot of the things that we're supposed to be doing. You know, because no sister should have to go through what you're talking about. Nobody should have to go through that. And why are you doing that? But I see that the Muslims, they will go and they will help people who they can get, you know, like I said, some grandiose, notoriety for, doing this and doing that. But when the Muslim women come and ask for help, we're really, we're really unkind. And there's several categories. I can't accept the women who they have mental health problems for being abused for so many years. Oh, that's right, that's before a story. There were so many women, and there was this one woman that she was in a mental institution. Well, her husband had signed her in, and a taxi brought her to, she just happened to be put in a taxi cab that knew about Muslim Anis, and they brought her to the house. And this was someone who wasn't even a Muslim. Was like, really? And they brought her. And then she told me, she said that, she was an educated woman. She had several degrees, PhDs, master's degrees, all kinds of degrees. She said that she was born normal. That's what she said. She didn't have any problems. And she said, but she was abused for 25 years. And that he was trying to drive her crazy. He didn't want her no more. She said he wanted a newer model. She said then he did things that really to step it up to, and she asked her family for help. And they says, no, go back. You his wife, you have to stay there, you have to stay there. That's what they told her. That's what they usually are told. And she came to the house, and she, she seemed a little, different. But I said, if you're not a danger to self or others, okay, I'm going to try to work with you. So I remember and she told me how he would lock her up in a room, and she would never get, sunlight, and he wouldn't, how she was just, it was just very hard for her. And one day, one of the sisters called me to the house. They said, Asma, you have to come. She's sitting in the yard on the grass, and see, so they're thinking that, okay, something crazy is going on. Because, maybe she would talk to herself, these types of things. And I go there and I ask her, I says, well, why are you sitting on the grass in the yard? She says, for the sunlight. She says, I just want to be in the sun. It just felt, that was like a wonderful thing for her, just be able to sit in the yard, right? And I understood. I could understand. And then 3 days later, right, I was at the office park, and they called me again. They said, Asma, you got to come. She's sitting in somebody else's yard now. This is crazy. Okay? So I get in the car, because it's just down the street, and I drive onto the street where she is. And I looked. She was sitting in the only yard where sun was still coming. And I just rode right on by her. Went on back to her, I just rode right on by her, because I understood. And these are the types of things that we as a community, we don't take the time to, to understand why we're doing, what we're doing. And she had a mother, a father, and a brother who wanted her to come back to the house. They said, come back to the house. And she refused. So technically she didn't need to be there, because she could go home. And I asked her why. I said, no, go back to your family. She said, because they didn't protect me when they should have. She says, why would I want to go there now? She said, they only remind me, of the neglect and the pain. See, so I didn't make her go. And when it was another thing that happened. There was a person who came in there that was supposed to be helping, but they were prejudicial to the sisters. They're supposed to be a volunteer, but they couldn't hide their, I guess, disdain for the women, right? And so she said to me, she said, Asma, she said, you need to say the three cools when she's around. You need to say the three cools when she's around. See, I understood exactly what she meant. He said she wasn't that crazy, right? She knew you said the three cools when you just got somebody that's a jinn or something evil up in the house. But at the same time, I couldn't. And then, but she did cause. It was some things that I was always having to then, because I had people in the house who weren't that. Everybody's not that kind. And I think we're all victims of domestic violence in some kind of way. We all got some crazy, with us, in terms of our life. So she left a pot on the stove with the fire on, and she left the pot, and she went and she laid down and she fell asleep. So they said, Oscar, she's gonna burn the house down. I was like, it's a metal pot. How many metal pots do you know it's gonna catch on fire? Okay, so, but it would be things like that, how we would even pick on one another, even people in need, and they still are doing things. So you see, it becomes a difficulty, and why actually it would be easier or better to take people who had special needs. They're not crazy, but they have a different perspective on how they may look at things or react and respond, and that's why I keep having to go back, or stopping me from being away or doing different things. But if I had a staff person who could be there when I wasn't, and that was what I had started asking the Muslim community for. I don't ask them for any money from me. I don't take any money. It was to be able to provide the sisters someone in the house that they could go to if I'm not there, at any point. And that's what the other shelters, see, they will provide that. In those shelters, they have case managers, they have sociologists, psychologists, they have nutritionists, they have the people doing the social services and helping with the WIC and helping with the immigration, all of these different things. And I don't have that. And if people want to come and provide, let's say they want to volunteer, I can't allow them to superimpose their ideas on the women, and they will do that. Because I had one came in and she was supposed to be a legal person, and she was supposed to help them with the immigration, but she was too busy trying to be able to get them to put out a restraining order on their husbands. I said, no, that's not what they want. You can't do that. But it's like she was refusing to help them if they're not willing to provide that. But that's not the woman's goal. They're not vindictive. They're not vindictive. And why would you want to put that in their hearts? So, but Muslim women have a hard time. We have a hard time because our needs are not really, like I said, a priority. And that's human beings. That's not Quran and Sunnah. That's human beings. And I don't know how to change that. And a topic that I've been trying to get people, okay, still my topic now. It was a topic that I've been trying to get several people to come to have a fundraiser. I don't even do fundraisers anymore because nobody shows up. And the name of the topic is, okay, paradise lies at the feet of the mothers. So why is she homeless? Nobody wants to do it. That's the one I want. I want somebody to do that talk. See, because that's too what? Is that too political? I don't know. But we don't want to acknowledge where we're in error. And what we fail to realize is that the world, what it comes out, the world knows. And that's why we seem disingenuous or dishonest or, distrustful, any of those things. We want the society to like us. And I said, you're doing all these other things, and, maybe to be seen as men or being out, like even going to, and I understand that's like Flint, Michigan, and giving water and doing things because you're going to get the news reports. You're going to get those. Meanwhile, you got, homeless Muslim women walking around, no place to go, and no resources. And I said that even if we we wasn't saving the world, if we took care of the health and social services needs of Muslim women and children, the world might say, well, yeah, they do this, but they take care of their own. We can't even say that. They're not happy. I remember they talk to me because they think I'm just a regular, Joe Muslim from this country, and figure I don't have that cultural baggage. They only want to know kind of baggage I have, but they don't know. So, because I have that whole African American, been in this country, been oppressed, and baggage, but that's okay. They will talk to me, and they'll talk honestly, and I'm not trying to hide anything. That's why I stand up and say, yes, the shelter is exclusively for Muslim women, but then I also say, it says, however, even though it is exclusively for Muslim women, I said there's 3 categories of women who are not Muslim that I would accept. And they say, and I said, okay, so if it was a woman who's not a Muslim, but she was married to a Muslim man, and he abused her, then Islamically she's our responsibility because she was married to a Muslim man, Islamically. So, I try. The other one is, if there was and these are categories that I had taken in, if there was a Muslim woman who was caring for her mother, who was Christian, and then she becomes homeless, then her mother can come. Or if there were orphan children of Muslims, even if they, and they had to be children, not like grown people, and they needed and that's why I took in the orphan, refugees. Who's to say, right? I will take them as well, because Islamically, we're supposed to take care of these categories of people. And you don't have to be a scholar to know this stuff. You can just read. I mean, the Quran is, well, it is. I can read it in English. I mean, so, so you don't have to be a scholar. And so that's the reason why I say that I don't feel that I'm not doing anything profound. I'm trying to be able to put it in the perspective of what Allah, His Messenger, says, not necessarily correctly all the time, but there are some basic things that any of us can do. Just basic stuff. So I'll take that. I'll take those individuals, and what I have found too is that when I'm in terms of help, I get more help from people who are not Muslim than those who are Muslims. For my mother, when I was trying to bury my mother and I was trying to get help, when I was at Hartford, and I was explaining it to, because they had this thing where you're supposed to be, like sharing and whatever. And this woman in there was Hartford Seminary, familiar with Hartford Seminary. She was the pastor of her church, and they sent me money to help me to bury my mother. The Muslim community said, we're not giving you no money to bury that kuffar. That's what the Muslim community said. Like, wow, that's some serious conversation, And if I was going to leave Islam, it would have been then. So I'm still here. So, and I had to realize that's when you have to, say that it's about, Allah and His Messenger and not about the people. But you see, so I don't take issue with people of other faiths, because it says, "From whence cometh the help." And the thing that I realized, and this is when I was first establishing my organization, and I was in Atlanta, Georgia, when I did the health clinic first, right? So when I went to all of the Muslims and I wanted to have this organization where it would be professional Muslims, professional services by Muslims for Muslims. So I asked all of the Muslim doctors and whatever, I said, you know what, come and join this, and you each take a day where we're providing services so we can provide free health care, a free clinic to the Muslim women. Wasn't no money for it. They said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't have time and this and that. And so even though I was doing a free clinic, I was trying to get the Muslims to be able to do it. At the time, I was actually working for Morehouse College of Medicine, because I was on their staff when I actually started doing this. And I was telling the people what I wanted to do. The individuals who were not Muslim, they said, I want to do it. I want to do it. They said, oh, that would be so good. That'd be a way to, they wanted to give back. They were all excited. All of these people who weren't Muslim. And at first I was like, and I was turning to people, I say, no, I wanted to be just Muslims. No, I wanted to be just Muslims. No, I just want to. And then I was like, I don't think this is, maybe God's trying to tell you something. I was like, wait a minute. See, but I'm making dua and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. Who am I to define how the help comes, And that's what I was doing. Allah was sending me the help that I needed, and I'm rejecting it, because I'm like, now I'm trying to, tell Allah, well, you know what, I don't want that kind of help. Give me another kind of help, because I don't like this help. And I was able to get started from having all people who are not Muslim, scheduling. At least I had a doctor come in 3 days out of the week. I had about 15 doctors, and that's how I did the free clinic. So I understand that now, that you cannot, you can't tell Allah how to, you're supposed to ask for the help, and you be, appreciative of whatever form that it comes in.
Is there any sort of last remarks or questions?
Oh, yes, great. Oh, that's right.
If we want to, maybe if people have something to say, we can take them all together and have Sister Asma give some final reflections before that.
We do want to make sure you sleep.
Oh.
I want to get to eat too.
What time? Oh, that's okay. What time is it?
9.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's what the clock says. Well, they don't have to ask nothing they don't want to.
I was going to say thank you.
Let's make dua. And I want all of you all to be my social media team. That's what I have. That's what I don't have. And so if y'all, that's why I was telling. What's your name again? Sana. I was just kidding. No, when she sent the flyer and she sent it, and it was on her Facebook page, and I was like, oh man! And I was excited because I only know how to share. I don't know how to post, by itself. So I sent it out on my listserv. I did all of that stuff, because I was like bragging. I'm at Brown University. Oh, that's another thing too. Okay, this is my last. Okay. That's another thing too. Is that doing this work for all of those years, it didn't matter that I was doing the work. I got no. I won't say not props, but they treated me as if I was the menfolk treated me as if I was a nothingness. The reason why I wanted to go to school was I figured that it felt as if I wasn't qualified to do what I was doing. So it didn't matter that I've been doing this work for 20 years. I had no credentials which said I was qualified to do it because I was a nurse, right? Not a person involved in social services. So that's why I went to, alhamdulillah, Allah sent someone who gave me a scholarship to go to Harvard Seminary, right? So now, I'm not mad at y'all. So now people actually ask me to come and speak about the work that I was doing, all the while that I didn't have the credentials to do it. And so that was just kind of, it's kind of funny that, all this time was like I didn't matter. I wasn't qualified to be able to do that. And so when I sent out the information about, I want to say, see, Brown likes me. So it was a form of my own ego tripping. I sent it out. So then that's why I like to send things out, because when people ask me to come to speak or to do anything, because I don't have a media team or what do you call that, outreach or all those other. So I use stuff like this to be able to show that the women that I serve matter, and that individuals like yourself, thought they were worthy of your time and your attention. That's what it says. So that's why I like if y'all spam everybody. I'm going to send the one out tomorrow to whoever comes tomorrow. You have to take a picture so I can, and then you have to post it on the Facebook page so I can then do the shit.
Yeah, so tomorrow this is from 10 to 11 a.m. at the Sarah Doyle Center. It'll just be in the lounge. It's a breakfast panel, so breakfast will be served. And then it's Sister Asma Hanif speaking, as well as Unitarian Universalist. Yes, Unitarian Universalist Christian organization that runs in Mass. That's also coming and speaking about their work.
Do you know what Universalists are? You do? Universalist Christians. Do you know what they are? Oh, okay. They're technically, well, Universalist Unitarian, right?
Yeah.
They're technically Christians who don't believe in the Trinity. See some of that?
So that'll be happening tomorrow morning, Sarah Doyle Lodge.
Well, I won't say believe, they don't accept the Trinity. They, that's why they call them, Unitarian, like one God. Y'all have any questions? If you don't answer a question, then you can't tell. Okay, great.
I asked earlier on, I don't know if it's a question or a statement, but one thing I've been grappling with is how mental health plays into this. So, Sana and I went to a conference at Princeton not too long ago on redefining feminism.
Muslim masculinity.
Muslim masculinity in the age of feminism. And one thing I've been struggling with is, you know, women are victims, but it's sometimes hard for us to step back and also understand if our men are victims too. So victims of abuse in their own lives, which there is no structure culturally or in their society for them to talk about it. And also, you know, if they're facing mental health illness. And I wanted to know either your opinion on, you know, men as victims as well, and if you've considered any work in that sphere or talking about how mental health illness plays into this whole vicious cycle. That's, yeah.
Okay, I can do that quickly. Because I see them, I keep watching the best way to even explain that to you is a Kit Kat story. That little boy is a victim of domestic violence. You see, he's already been, you know, he's already became a victim. Right? He won't know anything different because it's what he's been, you know, taught. And when they say, you are what you learn, you know, and the daughter, okay, again, because you're seeing this as something that's acceptable. So he's a victim, and they've done many studies though about people who were, you know, any type of abuse or any type of things that's going on. It takes a long time to be able to get it out of someone's system. And what I find with the youth, and see, you all are in the best position to be able to stop that cycle of abuse, because what I find is that the men will say they saw how it affected their mothers. Mothers have a much, you know, better way of having the effect than like waiting until the wife or even the sister. So if they felt the mother's pain, if the mother spoke out, or if she said something to the son, you know, that's one of the reasons I don't even want to take males after a certain age, because their affinity will be with the father, and he will tell where the mother is, all right, or he will begin to dislike and be upset with the mother because she's breaking up the family. That's how the father is going to spin it. But when you get those sons, there's only, not all of them, that feels as if, you know what, that they're that self-accusing spirit, and they'll say, my mother is sad, she's hurting, you know, as opposed to the mother trying to be stoic and just taking it. See, she's painting the wrong kind of picture, and she's victimizing her son. So you all make the difference. The men who say, I don't want to, you know, I saw how it hurt my mother, I'm not going to do that to my wife. And then the Muslim women who said, you know, especially those in this country, it's more so here, who say, I'm not going to take this. I don't have to be a victim of domestic violence. You see, you're standing up for, you know, you have your own humanitarian right to not be abused. But it's, unfortunately, it's a very thin line that you don't cross over and say, and blame Islam. And that's what happens. People will say, you know what, I don't want to be abused, and this Islam that is abusive. And that's exactly the narrative that people who are not Muslim hate for the Muslim women. They say, you know, when they go to these shelters or these other places, and I know I kind of drift it off, but they will tell them that, you know what, why they have no sympathy is because they say, well, you're a part of that religion that abuses women. So, you know what, you got what you deserved. You either leave that religion, you know, and then we can help you. But every person, everyone in this room, okay, everyone in this room, so it is me, is a victim of domestic violence. Because the victim doesn't have to mean that it was, you know, like the direct hit on you, but the fact that you even needed to have someone to come to have this conversation means that it has impacted you negatively, right? Which makes every one of you in here a victim on some kind of level. Every person in here. And so we have to fix that. Having conversations like this is absolutely essential. We don't do it enough in the Muslim community because, like I said, we're too busy being in denial. And even the way that you said it, you know, being able to affect change. No, we talk about it as if it's, you know, something in theory. You know, well, no, you know, just sitting there, you know, saying, well, it's not a part of Islam, it's not a part of Islam, it's not a part of Islam. Meanwhile, you got all these people who are being, you know, abused. And they don't give help to the men because he's not viewed as someone in the wrong. And you can't help somebody unless they at least, first of all, they gotta want to be helped. That's the reason why when someone calls and they want to talk to me about the man, I said I can't have that conversation because it's wasted, and it's just wasted words. That he has to recognize that he needs help. So if you can't get him when he's before he gets to the point where he's actually viewed it and he hasn't been influenced by it as a culture, then the next phase would be when he grows up and he says, I'm going to stop this, with my generation. There's not a lot of help, and it is a disease. You have to look at it like a disease, like they look at alcoholism. I just think about it. They say once a person is an alcoholic, they're always an alcoholic. You got to always fight against it. So if that's been a part of your culture, you have to actually, actively fight against it. Actively fight against it, and that's a shame that you have, that we have to go through that. And it is a mental health issue, because when someone can just change your basic nature, that's not a part of your nature. To beat up someone, to hurt someone, somewhere in that person's life, someone condoned it. That's what happened, and that's with any mental health, any mental health issues. And most of them, I feel so sad because most of the women who call, they're bipolar, because they chose a space in their brain where where they could endure the abuse. But then the other side of the brain knows that this isn't right, and I want to fight and I want to get out of it. And even the young men, to see anybody being beat, that's not how Allah created us. So they have to hurt. You have to hurt when you see somebody, but after a while you become conditioned. And that's and I learned this too, about what they call learned helplessness. If you're familiar with learned helplessness, okay. Well, I use that, and it has to do with both scenarios, whether it's the man and the woman. And they tell the story about the elephant at a circus, right? If you go to the circus, you notice that the elephant always has a rope tied around his feet, his foot, or whatever. You just notice that. It's tied around it, and it's tied to a pole, okay? If you ever notice that when you go to the circus next time. Basically, you think about this elephant that's at the circus, that I guess it's, as huge as he is, that all he had to do was just start walking. He could pull the whole tent down. He's huge. What they do is they take him as a little baby elephant, put the string on his foot, tie it to the pole, and when he's little now and he's trying to get away, he can't get away. And they continually do that. That by the time that he could, that's why I said it's a learned helplessness. He is now being conditioned to believe that he can't get away. But he's big enough now that he actually could. But he doesn't know any better, because he was taught to stay right there. All right? They took away his spirit. See? And that's what happens to the men. They have they've been conditioned to accept that this is the right way. And the women, to beat women, and the women have been conditioned to accept that this is our fate in life as women. That's a mental health thing. And that's a sad thing to do to a child, to take away that innocence. It's so sad. I told you that my answer was going to be, and they were going to always, this conversation, this talk is a tearjerker. It really is. Because it's not that much better, and the more influx of individuals who come in, into this country, they just, they're bringing it, and they bring it, and only thing I know to do is just make we might make some dent by doing what you can do, whatever you can do. Remember, we are not going to eradicate it, but we can at least, like I said, try to change it with your hand. Or speak out against it. We can at least do that, right? That's our goal.
Thank you so much.
All right, you so precious.
Do you have a way to donate online on your website?
Yes, I do. What? Y'all want to donate online? Okay, fine.
Is that possible?
Yes, you can. The reason why is that I'm trying to change the system. You don't want to hear this, but because I had someone to set the system up, but that volunteer is not with us anymore, and so now I have to redo everything. But you didn't hear this from me. I have to redo everything because it goes into the bank that we need to be able to close out and put a different bank there. So I don't want anybody to donate online. I rather for them to donate on one of them little cards. So I had this, or I had the little swipey thing, but or do it in a couple of weeks after I fix it.
Okay. Because I wanted to end this just by asking every one of us can give some amount, and I think we all understand the need to do that, even if it's just $1 or $5. So I think if
well, then do it through PayPal then, and not through the donate button. Because
we have the cards out.
Yes, you do.
So we can use the cards. So how about let's get a show of hands for who's going to commit to taking a card.
No, don't do that. Oh, taking a card.
Yeah,
Okay.
taking a card, and at some point giving something. Let's just have a show of hands, just to have the physical act of
And who's gonna spam people when I send them an email?
So,
Can you talk a little about the listserv? Because I get the emails that you send out about.
That's because you sent me an email at some point in your life. If you've ever done that.
Oh yeah, I was gonna sign up.
Yeah.
Yes, if you've ever done that, then and I had to figure out how to work our listserv. Right now, the only thing that I can actually be able to retrieve is if you use the Muslimat _Ali7 PayPal thing or the little square thing. I figured out how to do the square thing. You know, the swipe. I'm so proud of myself. I can do this stuff, you know. So I forgot what your question was about.
I was just saying, like, how we can all sign up for the listserv, because that's how we.
You're not on the listserv?
Some of us are.
Yeah, but not all of us.
But not all of us. So can we?
Okay.
How do we get onto the listserv?
Well, the easiest way is to actually send me, signing up like that, and maybe for everyone, send me an email that I can then, and say, add me to your volunteers list, and then I will cut and paste that email, and, onto our listserv, where it says add a new member. Then that's easier than me having to then, take it off of there. It could be a long time ago.
So then we should just take your email address. And
It's on now. That's on the card.
Wait, is it easier to do it this way, or is it easier
Do
to
both.
just
Do
email
both. Do both. Just in case
Or
they forget.
you can pass it around and one of us can type up all the emails so you can copy.
Or we could.
We could type up one list and send it to you.
Or if you want right now, we could all just whip out our phones, take her email address, and just send a blank email saying volunteer.
Yeah, there you go.
subject.
Yeah, see?
And she'll get a bunch of emails saying volunteer on it. So if you all just want to take out your phones and just, you can read out your email address.
Well, you have it over there, right? Do you have my email address?
Probably.
Or if you give them the card, I think it should be on one of the cards. The cards, I bought those cards because they're going to be, and I really like people to come in Ramadan. To help me in Ramadan. That's the only time that people will give just because they have to. Okay? Before they'll give if I beg and plead, and but in Ramadan they will give because they have to. This is the non-rice people. These are people from far away. Right? Yeah, the non-rice people. Y'all need a bag of rice? I give it to my neighbors.
So you're. Oh no. Let her eat.
I think Sana has it on the
Oh,
card,
you want
so I
it?
can read it out. Let me.
No, go get some of the cards. Did you pull the cards out?
I think Sana.
Yeah.
Sana, can I just grab one so I can read her email address out?
But you can give everybody the card too.
Yeah, I can do it.
I need
That
it.
too. Don't worry.
Yeah, give those cards out. Is your email address on that?
Yeah, it's at the back.
Director
@MNNISA.
That would be me.
Director at MN.
Nisa.org.
Now,
So-
you Muslims always spell
Nisa with 2 A's.
So MNISAA.org.
Most Muslims spell it with 2 S's instead of 2 A's.
Huh. That doesn't make much sense.
Because it says Nisa.
Do you want to take a look?
MNISAA.
Yeah. So it's director at mnisaa.org, and then just put volunteer in the subject heading if that helps.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just copy paste those.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's the easiest way. And all that we want people to do is to forward it, because if the email only goes to the people who I already have on the list, then see, I'm going to drain them. So it has to be forwarded. Any email I send, forward it to somebody else, and forward it to somebody else, and say, please forward. And while y'all are doing that, something that someone else taught me 3 years ago when I was going through one of my crises and needing something, it was a water bill that needed to be paid. And so I needed a lump sum of money, because see, the way water bill works is that if you don't pay your water bill, it's not like the BGE people who cut you off. The water bill is owed to the state. If you don't pay it, then they'll put a lien on your property, you know, sell it for tax sale, and then pay off the bill. So we would have lost the house that belonged to even the other person. So somebody called me and they said, yeah, and this is a story to show you how you're very valuable. They called me and they said, well, Asma, I heard about your organization. How do you do? You need anything? So I told her the water bill story, that this person was going to lose the house because of that. So what she did was, she took my story, she sent out an email to all of her people, right? And told them that we needed, it was something like $5,000 for the water bill. And then they circulated that email, and they circled it, and they circulated. And just from her email of writing up that, personally, we received enough money to pay the water bill and to function not 1 month, not 2 months, but 3 months. And whenever I see her, I always call her. I said, oh, look. I said, my Shiro, who single-handedly saved the shelter. I told her that. But what that let me see is that people told me something. They said, Asma, when you send out a request for help, then people see that as begging. They said when other people do it, they see it as fundraising. You see how we frame stuff? And it's the truth. And so the problem is that even though we have a listserv, if people don't open the email up, what was the point? They didn't read it. They don't know the crises. But why her email was more effective is because it went to all of her friends and people she was familiar. So they knew, they opened it up. And then once they read it, they said, oh man, yeah, we need to help this. And then they sent it to all their people. You see what I'm saying? So I need some new people to beg from. and that's the reason why people, individuals can be valuable. But of course we know that, Allah's upon $1, did what Allah does, in that particular incident, So just letting you know, forwarding things is the best help, because that's what the other people have. Again, I say I don't have the social media.